Good morning, folks. This is Celeste Carmichael. I work in program development and also reporting for Cooperative Extension Administration. I want to welcome you to another version of Campus County Connections. This is a webinar series that's really intended to help you know how our research and extension works together and works really effectively through our system. Today we're going to be addressing an issue that is important to a lot of people around the state, and that is working with a Spanish-speaking workforce. Our focus is on agriculture and diversity, but I think there's going to be some good information and tips that, regardless of what your program area is, you'll be able to walk away with. So thank you all for being here. Before I go too far, let me ask if audio all sounds good, and let me introduce you to the Zoom webinar platform, because you may not have used Zoom before, or the Zoom webinar platform. So you have a little menu bar at the bottom of your screen that will give you some options, some audio options, some options for chatting and for using Q&A. So chat and Q&A are both available to you to get your questions in. So if I can just have you practice using the chat, chat something in, maybe a name, where you're from, an interest that you have in this topic that you want to have addressed. That would help me know that that is working for everybody. Many folks on campus are starting to use Zoom. It's really it's a nice tool. It's a simple tool, and if you use WebEx, Zoom is very similar. The Zoom webinar format does have a couple of quirky things that I'll just point out, because you may be asking yourself, who else is on this webinar? Zoom is kind of funny in that it does not show the participant list, at least it hasn't been, to all of our the rest of the participants. So unfortunately you can't see that, but you should be able to see the chat. So looks like we have Melanie from Ulster, Jillian from the Finger Lakes Grape Program, Alyssa from Jefferson County Extension, Maria Jose from El Salvador, and Alana from Rensselaer. So really glad that all of you are here and joining us. This webinar will also be recorded and posted on the page that you see up right now, part of our Campus County Connection webinar series. So, and they stay up for, well, I think the series has been going for 3 years, and we have maintained all of our former webinars, because there's really been some great topics and some great presenters. So that leads us to the heart of today, and we have Libby Eiholzer and Mario Sazo both joining us, and so this is a little bit of a different setup than what we usually do, in that they are each going to be presenting a little bit about their own particular programs. So we'll get diverse perspectives about a diversity topic, which is really pretty cool. So I want to thank them both for being here. Mario's here with me in my office. Libby is in the CCE Ontario County office, and we're going to start out with Libby. So Libby, if I can ask you to mute yourself and share your slides, that would be fantastic. There we go.
All right, can you hear me?
We can. Wonderful.
Great. Okay, you don't need to see my email. All right, so as Celeste said, my name is Libby. I've been working with Cornell Cooperative Extension through the regional dairy, livestock, and field crops team in Western New York for about 5 years. I guess next month it'll be 5 years. I was originally hired in 2012 to a bilingual dairy specialist position. This position was created by my coworker, Jerry Bertoldo, who is a veterinarian and has worked with dairy farms in Western New York for many years. And he doesn't speak Spanish, and thought, it would be great if we had someone on staff that could address not only the needs of dairy farmers, but also their employees, and provide education to them. So he went through, I believe, New York Farm Viability Institute to get, and Smith Lever funds, I think, to create funding to start a new position on our team. I think it was around '07 or '09 that the position was originally created. And Greg Kofta was the first person that was hired into that position. He was there until 12 when he left to pursue other career goals, and I was hired. So when I first started, I was working, like 100% of my time was working with Hispanic employees on farms. Since then, I have switched to doing, probably that's about, well, depending on 50 to 75% of my job. And then the rest of the time I'm working on just general dairy programming, so programming in English. But I've got a map here that shows the counties that we work in. So this is Genesee County, over here is Seneca, so it goes down here. And I've got a star in Batavia in Genesee County. So when there's a federal detention center for ICE in Batavia. And when I started in 2012, there was a lot of enforcement action going on, and it was very common for Hispanic employees to get picked up at, when they were out shopping or driving or, kind of in the public eye. So when I started, we would have a lot of programs in English where we would invite people to come to 20, 30 people to come to a farm for some kind of a training in English. When I floated the idea of doing something like that in Spanish, nobody was interested because they just were worried about having employees traveling very much. And it's kind of funny. I put this together about 2 weeks ago, this presentation, and the situation, or at least people's fears about immigration and enforcement have completely changed in the past, especially the past week. There's a lot more unrest and worry about ICE activity. But the point of the slide is that when I started, I couldn't get anyone off a farm, but had a lot of success in getting groups of Hispanic employees meeting on different farms for trainings, which is obviously great from an educator perspective because we can have a lot more impact if we have a group of people together rather than going farm to farm and training 2 or 3 people at a time. So I don't know what's going to happen with the whole political situation and immigration reform, but I'm really hoping that some of the rumors going around now are unfounded and employees are not going to have a lot of issues like they did in the past. But without getting too political.
But I'm glad you brought that up, Libby, because
yeah.
I think that's certainly on everybody's mind. So.
Yep. And I guess just offhand, I've been on farms in the past 2 weeks, and employees are extremely scared. Those with, I guess, no matter what their immigration status is, people are worried. Even green card holders are worried. So we'll see what happens there. All right. Next slide. This is just talking a little bit about some of the more on-farm trainings that I offer. The previous person in my position, Greg, he started putting together some training that I built off of. Kind of our tagline for these trainings is train and retrain your Spanish-speaking employees with this innovative program created to improve profitability, sustainability, and management on New York dairy farms. So with some of these examples here, I'll go out to a farm that has however many employees that they're interested in giving some additional training on topics such as animal welfare, reproduction, help during calving, help with cows that have just had a calf and are more likely to get sick. Milker training, that's one of the most basic introductory jobs on a farm is milking cows, taking care of calves. So all of these topics are things that employers can teach their employees to do through bits and pieces of Spanish and English and showing people. But the thing that gets left out a lot through the lack of really good communication is why employers want things to be done in a certain way. So when I go in, I'll teach people, this is what the biology of the cow is. This is how your actions affect her. And, your employer isn't telling you to do this just because he's OCD and really picky, because there's a really good biological reason for doing it this way. So here's just a couple of pictures working with people in milking parlors, working with guys that are in charge of feeding calves. Another big part of my job is facilitating employee meetings. So a lot of farms will have monthly or quarterly meetings with their Hispanic employees. They'll address, anything that's changing as far as standard operating procedures, maybe if they're going to be doing some construction or changing something big on the farm, letting the employees know how it's going to affect them, and obviously also opening it up for questions and concerns. Often the farmer will say, I'll get there and they say, oh, we've got a short agenda, shouldn't be a long meeting, but there's always a lot of questions when employees have the opportunity to communicate freely with their employer. A lot of things come up. So I think just in general, this is helping create a culture where employees are have the opportunity to be heard, and giving them encouraging the farmer to really take any concerns sincerely, and showing the employees that they do care. Another part of what I do for farms, is there a question? Nope.
Nope.
Another big part of what I do for farms is helping with written translation of standard operating procedures and job routines. On the left here is a picture of a milking routine. So basically for anybody that's not dairy oriented, when you're preparing a cow to be milked, you're cleaning her udder, checking the milk to make sure that the cow's not sick, there's no mastitis, and attaching the milking machine. And it's important to do those things in the right order, but also the timing of those steps is very important for milk letdown. So sometimes employees rush through the routine, attach the machine too quickly, and then the cow doesn't let down and doesn't milk out well. So explaining, the background of that to the employees, why it's important, and then having something on the wall in the milking parlor that can be used to educate new employees in the future is helpful. And here's a more detailed protocol for feeding baby calves. Another thing that's come up in the last 6 months to a year is a lot of helping farms better organize and lay out their kind of work policies, and especially housing policies. A lot of farmers offer free housing to their employees, and don't really want to be landlords or never really wanted to be a landlord. And because of that, if they don't have written policies about how the house needs to be kept up and taken care of, sometimes gets in bad shape. So helping people write out, this is what our expectation is for keeping the house clean, and then sharing that with employees. Another thing that I've done recently in collaboration with NICAM, which is the New York Center for Ag Medicine and Health, is offering some bilingual safety training. This organization is based out of near Cooperstown, New York. In the picture here is Anna Meyerhoff, who is their one staff person who is bilingual. This group has a Department of Labor funding that allows them to offer free safety training on farms. When OSHA announced the local emphasis on dairy farms, I think in 13 or 14, which basically was saying OSHA can come and inspect any dairy farm at any time and do a surprise inspection, which is a change from their normal operation. And I just couldn't get to all the farms that were calling and requesting safety training. So basically I work for them, or Extension provides me on a contract basis to NICAM. It's been a great working relationship. It's a way that I can, offer something new to farms at no cost, because I do, when I'm translating or doing job training, there is a hourly fee that helps support our program generated funding and helps our budget. But this is something I can offer to farms for free, and it's been a great way to help improve safety on dairies. So I mentioned in my first slide about not being able to get employees off farms. That has really, really changed in the past 3-4 years. Um, so for many years, our dairy team has offered dairy skills training in English. They're 2 to 3 classes a year, all different topics on having to do with taking care of cows, feeding cows. Um, Usually a lot more in depth, maybe a day-long program or a couple evening meetings. So we started a couple years ago saying, we're going to have someone teaching the class in English, but I'm going to be there. I can translate if anybody is interested in taking the class to speak Spanish. So originally we would have maybe 1-2 people come to each meeting. But especially in 2016, we had some classes that were mostly Spanish speakers. So on the right, here's a picture. This is Vic Daniels, a hoof trimmer out of Canada that came to teach this class. We did 2 sessions, and I think 20 out of the 30 that attended were Spanish speakers. So that was a little bit of a challenge for me because I was translating for Vic. But luckily we had a couple. Here's a gentleman who's a herdsman on a large dairy and speaks good Spanish, so he helped me translate, and there was another a guy from Guatemala who helped translate as well. And then on the left, here's a picture of a feeding class where I had a group of 4 or 5 that spoke Spanish. Was there a question?
There was a question that came in. So the question that came in is asking, what kind of skills does the training include?
So in the picture on the right, hoof trimming, I don't know how basic to get here, but I'll go extra basic. Basically, dairy cows have hooves that grow all the time, kind of like your fingernails or toenails, and they need to, same as a horse, they need to be trimmed 2 to 3 times a year. So a lot of dairies, that's something that they will source out. They'll hire someone who goes from farm to farm and trims hooves. But there's more and more dairies that are having one person on their farm that learns how to do that and can provide that service to the dairy. And there's a lot more farms that are giving that responsibility to Hispanic employees. Same with feeding cows. That's a job that you have to be able to drive a tractor, use some computer software, do some math, and some, just some more jobs that require more training and a lot more responsibility. So these are things that, again, they can be taught on farm with limited English-Spanish communication, but if you can get somebody into a class where they can really ask questions and get some hands-on practice, for example, trimming cows, and that's what we try to provide here.
So Libby, one more question about that, because I know that there's some educators that have may have thought about on-farm versus off-farm, and how might you recruit Spanish-speaking workers from the farm to come to a class? How have you addressed that? Has it been a concern? Do you have any tips or tricks that you would suggest?
So for us, for the training that we're doing, we tend to think hands-on is better than classroom. It's just everybody learns better that way. It's more interesting, and you can also learn a lot from visiting another dairy farm. So a lot of times when we have one of these classes, sometimes the request for the training will come from a farm that has Hispanic employees that are interested in that. Also, because I'm out visiting farms and interacting with farmers, on a weekly basis, a lot of times if we're going to do a feeder training and I can think of 6 farms that have an employee that could benefit from it, then I really, really encourage them to sign up their employees and make it possible for them to attend. And then also we've worked a lot so usually easily we can get a farm to volunteer to host. And then we also work, we advertise broadly, and we also work with local veterinarians and nutritionists that are working with farms as well, and ask them to help us advertise to farms they work with that have Hispanic employees who would be interested.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. And another question came in asking, how far do you travel to do these trainings?
Yeah, so we do cover 10 counties. I live on the eastern part of our territory, and the farthest farm that I can think of from me is about 2 hours. But generally, day to day, I'm traveling almost always an hour wherever I'm going.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, I guess I'm probably getting close to my time here, but another thing that we've done extensively across the state really for dairy farmers are hosting discussion groups. Basically, a couple times a year or once a month, get some farmers together, tour local farms, have guest speakers come in. And I had a dairy farmer who was involved in the English group said, could you do this for my Hispanic employees? And I said, well, do you think people would travel? And he said, well, we could host it at our farm and invite, the 5 or 10 closest farms to us. It's an area where there's a lot of dairies. And we've had a lot of success with that. I think the biggest thing is communicating with the farm owners, the employers, and letting them know, who's coming, where it's going to be. Just have it be very open so that they feel comfortable with their employees traveling or transporting their employees to these meetings. But that's been a lot of fun. I get, again, local vets, nutritionists, people that speak Spanish in the industry to come in and be guest speakers. We've toured some different farms. I think it's a fun opportunity for these guys to get off the farm and see something new. Something I started, it's got to be 3-4 years ago now, is a e-newsletter that's bilingual. I've got a list of up to probably about 200 dairy farmers right now across the state. It's something I do for free because it doesn't cost me anything other than my time to do it. But I've always got a section of vocabulary, English, Spanish vocabulary that has to do with dairy farming, the weather, family, food, things that employers might talk about with their Spanish-speaking employees on a day-to-day basis. I usually have a section that is some kind of, educational information for employees in Spanish and English, like the topic might be, why is it important to feed a baby calf within 2 hours of birth or something like that. I also do a section on some of the cultural questions misunderstandings I see come up with dairy farmers often. One of the really common ones, employers will say, I don't understand, why do they have all these last names? And should I hyphenate it on the paperwork or which goes first? And so I just did 2 paragraphs explaining, this is the mother's first last name and the father's first last name, and this is how it works, and just basic stuff like that. And also, labor-related updates if there's a mobile consulate for the Mexican or Guatemalan government that's going to be in the area where employees can go to get their passports updated or whatever. I'll share that kind of information. Is there another question?
Can you provide the link for the e-news so that others might be able to share the information? And I can post that right on our webinar page as well, just so it
okay. Our team website is nwnyteam.cce.cornell.edu, and it's under the bilingual tab. But I'll provide that link to Celeste to send out. I should have put it in there. Didn't think about it.
Thank you.
One of the newest things this year, Kathy Barrett, who works with ProDairy at Cornell, she's been doing dairy webinars once a month, or I think once a week during the winter. And she said, what if we did these in Spanish? I said, sure, why not? I did one webinar, and then we've also had actually a number of PhD or master's students at Cornell in the dairy department provide a half-an-hour webinar on some kind of a rather basic dairy management topic. We do it at noon to 12:30, and then we post it online. So we've gotten quite a bit of good feedback about that. It's posted on YouTube so people can re-watch. This past summer, I worked with Tom Maloney from the Dyson School and an intern, Brooke Ryan, who's a senior this year at Cornell, to do a survey of Hispanic dairy employees and employers in Central and Western New York. She interviewed 205 employees and 36 employers. And the link is here to read the full report. But I thought this was probably one of the most interesting things that came out of the survey. So you can see the orange portion. We'd asked, how many of your employees are Hispanic and what percentage is that of your workforce? And 47% of the farms we talked to had half or 3/4 of all of the employees on their dairy farm were Hispanic. And another quarter to half had 25% Hispanic workers, or another 25% had half or a quarter Hispanic workers, and then 22% had 3/4 Hispanic workers on their farm. So that was, really, really enlightening. We also asked about wages, benefits, that type of thing, and we're, spreading the report widely and hoping that this can contribute to the whole immigration reform debate. And one of the big things for dairy farms is that we don't have access to a guest worker program because we are year-round work and not seasonal. So we can't use H-2A, and that's something that dairy farms are really pushing for. So we're hoping to show this is how important these people are on our farms. And then just lastly, the Ag Workforce Development Council is a group that I've been part of over the past year. It's a cross-commodity group of fruit, vegetable, dairy farms, and industry supporters. So I represent Cornell along with a couple of other folks. And the purpose of the group is to work together on some of the labor issues that we're seeing in dairy and other ag commodities. That the idea is to help farmers be proactive in retaining a skilled farm workforce, developing best management practices, and also when there's issues that come up with the Department of Labor or other governmental agencies working, kind of being a reaching out directly to them on the behalf of farmers to help solve some of these issues. So that is what I've got for you guys. Any more questions?
So I'm going to give folks a couple minutes to type in questions, and you should be able to see the questions as well, Libby. So if you see them and want to respond, and meanwhile, I'm going to start to transition over to Mario's slides. So go ahead and ask questions. These are some good questions that are coming in. Thank you so much, Libby, for sharing this. And you have a lot of great resources there that I'll tap into and make sure that they get posted on the website as well.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oops. And I'm going to type right in here. I sent it to Celeste, but I meant to send to everyone. Here is the link to our team website, and if you click on the Bilingual tab, you can get to that's where I post all the newsletters.
Super. So another question came in asking, can very similar program be developed specifically for produce farmers? Is there something in place already? So I'm not sure if either I can open that up to either of you. You may know about one of the other area ag teams that's working with produce farmers. I'm not sure. Yes.
You want me?
All right, so Mario, I'm just going to look at your screen and see what you see for Zoom. Looks like I need to open up.
And I guess I don't know of any similar programs with vegetable or produce farms. I don't know if Mario does, but.
There we go. So are you seeing it on the big screen now?
Mm-hmm.
That's better. Okay, super. All right, so Mario.
Can
I am going to, yep, hold on one second here. I'm going to start your video. There we go. Excellent. Would you mind starting with just kind of introducing yourself and
Can you put it back?
back one? There you go.
Okay, so good morning. Yeah, a little bit myself. Okay, there I am. I have been very lucky. I have had the opportunity to work with the Spanish-speaking labor force in the Lake Ontario Fruit region. I am originally from Chile, so that allowed me to connect with them in a very special way. So let me share with you a little bit about what I do. Let me show you the counties where we work in upstate New York in the Lake Ontario Fruit region. So if you see the fruit production in the state is divided in mainly three regions: Champlain Valley, Hudson Valley, and Lake Ontario Fruit region. But where I am located in Lake Ontario region, we produce more or less 66% of the fruit production is done there next to the Lake Ontario. So that is the reason why we have the Lake Ontario Fruit Program. And I am one member of the 4-person team. In Champlain and in Hudson Valley, we have 1-person team doing economics, pest management, horticulture, economics. I do only horticulture here in the Lake Ontario Fruit region, so we can go a lot deeper in our area of expertise. So I began to work in the Lake Ontario Fruit region in 2009. And when I came here, that is a picture that I have there that was taken more than 7 or 8 years ago. One of the first pictures when I began to work with them. That is something, when I was working with them, I say there, that day we were harvesting, but I began to really spend a significant amount of time. Nothing was happening at that time with the Spanish-speaking program from 2009 to 2011, but I was understanding then and learning from them, and I began to realize by 2011 that some kind of training was necessary for Hispanic employees in Western New York. So nothing of this was being done. The level of expertise that that is needed today to manage this kind of high density plantings where the level of investment is huge, really require people be very well trained. So that was the reason why I thought it was a good idea. And on top of that, you can start seeing all the things that they are living, the challenges, the personal aspirations, the relation with management, even the job injury. I start seeing what is happening and really understand if they were having or not a real overall technical understanding of the apple growing business, of the modern apple business. And they really didn't have a real understanding. They really didn't have a clue, some of them, why those things need to be done. Like you were saying, Libby, what is the reason? What is the physiological reason? Why we had to prune a tree in that way? Why we had to be so careful in the way how we do things, and why sometimes the fruit grower get upset for anything. So the other aspect is if you start interacting with them, in my case, it's easier because I share my first language. But you start seeing that some Spanish-speaking crews are very efficient, are very hard workers, very motivated, very committed, and other similar crews at other places are not. You start seeing that dichotomy in my industry. I began to see why some growers were so successful, why they were working so good with their employees. And you realize in some moment that those most innovative fruit companies, very few that we have here in Western New York, understand that it's much cheaper to develop a highly skilled and motivated Hispanic fruit team than is to go out and bring in new people year after year. So a big difference perhaps living with you is that we had the H2A program for many, many years, working for the apple industry here in New York. But sometimes the growers are not bringing the same employees. And you also have the same some growers, like this company, for example, who are bringing for more than 15 years the same employee because they have already invested a huge amount of time because they have know them very well. They know how good they are, and they're already trained for what they need here in Western New York. And on top of that, as soon as they feel empowered, as soon as they know, they understand the value of their work, they can really perform at their best level, and they can start making their own decisions. So some growers let them to make the best decision because sometimes they are the guys who are in the orchards every day, walking those rows, seeing what is needed for planting, for pruning, for hand-thinning, or for harvest. But to go to that level takes some time. For some growers perhaps not gonna get it. And that is the big frustration for me here, being from a different culture, that I see that some growers perhaps never gonna give them the opportunity to try in a different position beyond just picking the apples. So you're gonna have growers who are mentoring and taking care of their employees, and at the same time they are experiencing that improved stability in the workforce. So here I just put 5 growers, good growers, who have been doing that kind of stuff. By far, the second grower that I have there, Rod Ferro, is the most significant grower who have made a huge impact in our industry and also in my career, I should say, because he has been highly supportive of this thing that began to be done in 2011 with the employee. He really was doing this 25 years ago. 25 years ago, he was mentoring and taking care of those employees, and those employees today are one of the most successful in our industry. But it's because Rod Ferro was there taking care of them, talking with them, having a Monday meeting, really training them and mentoring them. And you also found, I don't know, perhaps you live in, I don't know if that is the same, but I found that these Hispanic employees tended to be younger on average than their non-Hispanic counterparts. And some of them were more eager for new technical knowledge and new opportunities. They are fully aware of the fruit opportunities that were developed in California and in Washington State with the apple business. They know that exactly. They know what happened with an aunt or a grandpa or an uncle that went to the Pacific Northwest and today, for whatever reason, is an owner of an orchard and is very well positioned in the industry. So they know that sooner or later is going to start happening here in the Northeast, mainly Michigan, mainly New York, because by far the biggest apple industry in the country is Washington State. The second one is New York, and the third one is Michigan. So definitely here we are moving in that direction. I think so. We started at the right time. I think we're going to start seeing ownership in the next 5, 10, 15 years here in the Northeast with Hispanic employees. So let me share something about the way how I started doing this in 2011 until 2015. Is something that I have been building a company for horticulture. So it's one time in early February, the first week of February, where we were conducting a concurrent session with the regular winter fruit schools that we provide to the fruit growers. So if we were getting together in Lockport, in the CCE office in Niagara County, the same day that we were meeting with the fruit growers, I was having a half-day concurrent session with the Spanish-speaking employees. Okay, and I was inviting Mary Jo Dudley from the Cornell Farm Worker Program from the beginning. She has been very active with me, very supportive with the program. She was bringing immigration reform ideas, support for them. She always was one of the speakers with at least 1 hour, 1 hour and a half for her, especially at the end of that session, so she can stay there and really talk. And they open to Mary Jo. Mary Jo has an amazing capacity to really connect with the Spanish-speaking employee.
So that's a shout out to Mary Jo Dudley, right?
Yeah.
Yes, she's on. I believe that Mary Jo is on this webinar as well. So.
Mary Jo?
Yep. So when we get done, Mary Jo, I may ask if you have anything that if you want to just kind of share your website or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
Mary Jo has a huge amount of resources. She has been very supportive and working with us since 2011, and always have been kind of the foundation. But always our main kind of, if you see the program, always we have trying to provide in that section that is done one time early February in the west and in the east side of Rochester. So it's the same program, we just changed one day, February 5th, the following day, February 6th. In Wayne County, we provide horticulture-based pest management and pest identification, and something related with Mary Jo thought was the right thing to discuss that particular year. Mm-hmm. Okay, but later, we thought that was better to do or to conduct an independent educational event, and not the same day that we conduct the regular fruit school with the fruit growers early in February. So for example, this year, we already had the winter fruit school with the growers like a week ago, but we didn't conduct the Spanish school because last year in 2016, we did it late February, just to wait for the growers to start bringing their H2A employees. Most of the growers, like you mentioned there, you have 47% of your growers using a Hispanic employee. In our farms, we have, I don't have survey data like that, but I can tell you that more than 50, 60% of our growers have to have at least 1 or 1.5 full-time Hispanic employee working with them. And as the winter start progressing and they know that they need to finish the pruning before spring, they need to bring more help. So some of them bring 1 more or 2 more or 3 more or 8 more, depending on the acreage that need to be pruned and finished before the trees are gonna leaf out the first week of April, if we had a normal condition. So that was the case last year. It's the first time that we decided to separate the regular winter fruit school with the growers, and we have an independent school with them, and also not doing the meeting in a Cornell Corporate Extension office. This school was hosted by a grower at their own facility.
So did that impact the participation? Did you see increased participation?
Yeah, and it's a different, they're in their own ground. Mm-hmm. It's a shop, well heated last year in 2016, a nice facility with the orchards right there. Mm-hmm. So we had an opportunity to go to see the orchard. This year also is gonna be something like that, but that was in late February in 2016. So, sorry, you wanna, is that a question? Okay. So this is something like we did last year, just a couple of shots to show you the attendance in one of the sites. Me outside pruning with them at the end of the day, outside doing something of lab, showing them the buds, the floral bud of of Honeycrisp and Gela, that one of our main cultivars. And just to give them an idea of a lab activity and an indoor activity, but also taking them out to the outdoor too, because they feel very comfortable doing this kind of thing, more hands-on. Okay, so before I share what we are planning to do this year, what we also thought was something good, in addition to the Spanish winter fruit schools, that is only 2 days in the Western New York fruit region, okay? Because we do the same program in West and in the East Side of Rochester. We decided to start conducting a Spanish summer fruit tour, okay? And the beauty of that Spanish fruit summer tour is that it's done and is hosted by their employees. So the employees who are working at these orchards, they receive the rest of the workers, employees, and they explain in their own language what they are doing. Okay, but at a very high technical level. I push them a lot. I provide the same information that I provide to the growers. I provide the same information to the Hispanic workforce. I don't try to make any distinction, because what I am trying to tell the growers is that if we don't try to push them to learn as much as possible, how they're gonna become the future middle managers to start taking this big decision. They need to really have a good understanding of what is involved in this high density operation. So in 2015, we have an Orleans summer tour in Orleans County. In 2016, last year, we decided to go to Wayne County. And this year, in 2017, I am just thinking to bring them to the experiment station, research station that we have in Geneva, to show them what we do in research on top of that, with different topics in pest management and horticulture, but to show them what we do at Cornell, because still they don't understand. Sometimes they say, but what is extension? You're coming from Cornell University, but they don't dimension the things that we do here. So I want to bring them, hopefully this year, to the station. So this is a shot from last year at the end of the summer tour in Wayne County. So that year we got rain last year in the summer, and we lost, for this picture, at least 30 people. This was at the end of the tour, so we have a lot more people.
Wow.
But
that's
I
a lot of people,
but
it
was the only opportunity that I had to take the picture at the end of the tour. And I just want to kind of energize the rest of the people attending this webinar that is an opportunity out there, because they are very eager to receive any little piece of information. Has a huge value for them. Huge value for them. They really want to learn. They really see that, at least in the fruit industry, is an opportunity for them in the future.
So I think what I was hearing you say is, during these tours, they are doing some of the presenting themselves,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, which I think is huge, as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. They were very hesitant to take that role, but I say, guys, you had to do it. It's the only way. So this start generating a network between them.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great.
So, and we began this in 2011, but it was just this past year in 2016 where the program really took off, even with national media, like people coming even from Washington just to see what this little group of employees are trying to train themselves, because this is not happening at this level in the Washington industry. They should be doing this kind of tour. They should be talking to each other, learning from each other. But it's something that we started here, and it's because we are very lucky in this group. We have a lot of leaders also, and I have been able to connect with them, so they have been very helpful. I think so everything was happening at the same time. So that is one of the stops in 2015 summer tour in one of the nurseries, and there you can see one of our key members in the Hispanic community, Jose Iñiguez. That Jose Iñiguez, if I could point him in the screen, is in the right upper corner, talking there, that person there. Jose Iñiguez, that's a beautiful, yeah, Jose, that person there. Jose Iñiguez was trained by Rod Ferro. Rod Ferro is the grower that I mentioned before. Jose came here more than 25 years ago just to pick apples. And Rod Ferro gave him all the opportunity. And today, Jose Iñiguez owns an orchard.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I can tell you, it's one of the best orchards that we can show to our visitor who come from Europe, from any place. It's one of the most advanced planting system that we have. So Jose is working at a different level today, but he's still with that huge commitment with the industry, supporting me also, helping me a lot. So I have been very lucky to have Jose to be involved in this idea.
So a question did come in, and I can't seem to find it now, but it was asking NYSAES, and that's the New York State Ag Experiment Station in Geneva. So if that's unfamiliar to you, it's the Geneva Experimental Station. A lot of times people refer to it as. Anyway.
Yeah, we have a research station, the biggest in New York State, is 1,000 acres of these different research crops, vegetable crop, raw crops, tree fruit production, and also we have a campus on Geneva with different faculty, and we do research there year round. So let me go to the next one. There is again a picture of Jose just showing a technique that we put that material on the ground. It's a reflective material called Extend Day. And what we are trying to do there is, I don't know if people have the opportunity to taste Honeycrisp apple. It's one of the most expensive apples today. Jose has a lot of Honeycrisp there, and what he's trying there to do is to increase the amount of sunlight that penetrate the lower part of the canopy, the 30% lower part of the canopy that doesn't color so well at the end of the growing season. But by putting that reflective material, Jose has been able to increase the color, and so he can pick those apples and sell those apples and make more money with Honeycrisp. So those are the kind of things that we were telling them, the reason why Jose is putting that kind of material there. And here, last year, in the nursery, just with them, kind of me and another person, just discussing the techniques of nursery production. So last year, I got the idea that they were asking me, hey, Mario, how we can learn more about the nursery? And that's what we're going to be doing this year. All this, it's a lot about tree nursery production. And that was something that we implemented. And here I had the 2017 format of what we are planning to do this year. This year, we're going to focus just in horticulture. We're going to have a tree nursery production school. We are doing it even a little later than last year. We're doing it in March 4th in Orleans County, and in March 11th in Wayne County. But don't be worried, Mary Jo, if you are there listening, because the Cornell Farm Worker Program is going to have the opportunity to connect with them at the summer tour, if you want to do it, or even at the end of this activity that I'm going to have in March. It's something that I haven't talked with you, okay? But I am just trying to allocate those three hours that I have there to the program on tree nursery production. But if you are available, you are more than able to join those 2 days. And the future focus, just to finish, is you see the program started, like I mentioned, in 2011. We are 2017, trying to improve, trying to change, trying to modify. But I really see the opportunity, and this is something, another collaboration that I began to discuss with a new Ranharan that is a faculty here at Cornell running the beginner program. And we really kind of put together a USDA proposal, thinking that perhaps we can try to create these pathways for some of them, 10, 15, or 20 Hispanic employees to climb the ladder from labor to management to ownership of fruit farms. So there I had a picture of Jose Iñiguez. Hopefully I could have more Jose Iñiguez in the future in the Lake Ontario fruit region. Hopefully could have more positions, middle manager positions by around 2019, 2020, if we get the funding for this kind of training. That is kind of the idea, that kind of the direction for the program so far. But it's been a lot of work just to get to the point of the program in 2016. Took us at least 6 years to figure out and get the feedback that we're getting from the growers.
Well, some might say that it took only 6 years. So, I mean,
yeah.
you've done a lot. So that's really awesome.
Yeah. It's a summary that I give you a summary. Mm-hmm. Mary Jo, I had to say, she has been instrumental from the get-go. I can tell you sometimes we just have 1, 2, or 3 employees from Wayne County. Was very hard. Sometimes we were getting together in a fire department where we were having our regular winter fruit schools, but we continue doing it. And finally, I think so the growers are seeing the benefit of spending and sending their employees to these trainings.
Well, this is awesome. Thank you so much, Mario. And Mary Jo, I promoted you to a panelist if you want to say anything. Just in the background, you can see this comes back to the course description for the Campus County Connection series. We do have some resources up here already. I'll continue to put up the recording of this webinar, as well as some other resources that Libby and Mario share. But I really want to thank Libby and Mario. This was really wonderful. And Mary Jo, I would just want to invite you to, if you want to say anything as well. Oops, we can't. Let me see. Let me unmute you here. There you go.
So just to say again, it's been a great collaboration with Mario. It's been a real growing process. All of us have worked together with the workers, and just to see them come to a place where they are the presenters, they're sharing the information, has demonstrated great growth. I wanted to respond. There was a question earlier about if there are similar activities for produce, and we have submitted a funding grant to Northeast SARE, and we'll find out soon. But that would be to expand these efforts to produce and to develop more training efforts with workers on those farms.
Great, thank you. And I'll just point out quickly, so if you are interested in more information about Northwest New York Dairy, Livestock, and Fields team, we will also post the websites for each of the teams. And Mary Jo, I'll also post your website as well on there. So we've come to the close of our hour. I just want to thank everybody for joining us. I think this was really a fantastic webinar. And as webinars go, having 2 different perspectives was really a fantastic. I mean, there's a lot of information, but I think everybody has walked away with something. So thank you again to Mario and to Libby. And for the rest of you, know that this series happens once a month. Let's see, I'm going to go back to the list. So the next Campus County Connection webinar happens on the 15th of March, and we'll be talking about the seafood safety and seafood throwdown, which our colleagues from Sea Grant are going to be presenting. So hope you can join us at that time. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you, Celeste. This was great. And thank you, Mario. It was really interesting hearing more about your program.
With everything. Okay, you're doing a great job.
Same to you.
Indeed. Thank you.